When we picture our earliest ancestors, what comes to mind? Probably strong, burly men hunting mammoths, chipping away at flint to make spearheads. It's an image of survival through brute force, a story we've been told for decades. But this picture is incomplete. Beneath this familiar image of our past lies a deeper, richer, truth-early human society was shaped just as much by women as it was by men, if not more. In a world without cities, laws, or even written language, survival was a delicate balance. Hunting was important. Yes, it brought in high-calorie food, but it was also unpredictable and dangerous. Daily life, the very continuity of the group, relied on something else entirely. And that's where women played a central, indispensable role. They were the gatherers, the caregivers, and the keepers of knowledge that was absolutely essential for survival. Imagine this, a small group of early humans, constantly on the move. The men might be away for days, tracking a large animal, who ensured everyone ate in the meantime. The women, they had an encyclopedic knowledge of the local environment. They knew which plants were edible, which were medicinal, and which were poisonous. They understood the subtle changes of the seasons, remembering where the best roots grew or when certain berries would ripen. This wasn't just picking plants. It was a sophisticated science of botany and ecology, passed down from mother to daughter through generations. This knowledge was the safety net that caught the group when hunts failed. It was the difference between life and death during times of drought, scarcity, and unforeseen dangers. As our ancestors slowly began to transition from a life of constant movement to staying in one place for longer periods, women became the anchors of stability. Their deep connection to the land and its resources likely influenced where and when a group would settle. A spot with reliable water, abundant edible plants, and safe shelter for children was far more valuable than a good hunting ground. It was women who created the first homes, turning temporary camps into places of community and continuity. Think about the social fabric of these early groups. It wasn't held together by laws, but by relationships. The bonds between mothers and children, between sisters, and between grandmothers and the younger generation were the core of society. This grandmother effect, a theory that suggests older women's contributions were key to human evolution, is incredibly powerful. Grandmothers, freed from raising their own young children, could help care for their grandchildren. This allowed their daughters to have more children, closer together. But more than that, grandmothers were living libraries. They held decades of accumulated wisdom about finding food, treating illnesses, navigating social conflicts, and raising children. Their presence ensured that vital cultural and survival knowledge was never lost. Let's also talk about tools. We often associate tool-making exclusively with men and hunting, but women needed tools too. Digging sticks for finding nutritious tubers, baskets for carrying gathered food, and grinding stones for processing grains and nuts. It's very likely that women were innovators, developing the technologies needed for their own crucial work. These everyday tools might not seem as dramatic as a spear, but they were the foundation of daily sustenance. They ensured a steady, reliable food source that complemented the boom and bust cycle of hunting. The story of early humanity isn't just about the hunt. It's about the hearth. It's about the community, the sharing of knowledge, and the resilience that allowed our species to not just survive, but to thrive and spread across the globe. Women weren't just passive participants waiting for the hunters to return. They were active agents, shaping their environment, their culture, and the very evolutionary path of our species. Their roles may not have been carved into stone, but their legacy is written into our DNA, into the social bonds that define us, and into the simple fact that humanity is still here today. It's a history built not on power and domination, but on endurance, care, and a profound wisdom that allowed us all to grow. The first topic is life before structure. Have you ever wondered what life was like for our earliest ancestors? Long before cities, governments, or even written rules? It's a world that's hard to imagine, a time when humanity was just finding its footing. In this vast, structureless landscape, survival was a daily challenge, and every single person played a crucial role. Today, we're going to journey back in time to explore the incredible and often overlooked contributions of women in these early human societies. They were the unsung architects of our survival, the very glue that held our first communities together. Imagine a world without a king, a president, or a chief. There were no permanent leaders to issue commands. There were no fixed homes to return to at the end of the day. Life was a constant migration, following the seasons, the animals, and the promise of resources. In this nomadic existence, the most important law was cooperation. Small groups of people, likely extended families, moved together across the land. Sharing was not just a nice idea, it was the key to survival. The food you found today might be the only food the group had. The shelter you built was for everyone. This deep-seated reliance on collective effort is what allowed our species to thrive against all odds. So, where do women fit into this picture? They were absolutely central. In a world fraught with danger, from predators to harsh weather, ensuring the next generation survived was paramount. Women were the primary caregivers, nurturing children through the incredibly vulnerable years of infancy. They were the ones who managed the day-to-day sustenance of the group. While men might have been out on long, often unpredictable hunts, women were engaged in the reliable and essential task of gathering. They knew the land intimately, which plants were edible, which were medicinal, and which were poisonous. This knowledge wasn't just trivia, it was the difference between a full belly and starvation. This daily, consistent contribution of calories from gathered foods often formed the backbone of the group's diet, providing a stable food source when hunts failed. Think about the immense responsibility. Women had to manage food resources, not just for the present meal, but also thinking about what could be preserved or carried. They had to care for the young, the elderly, and the sick. When someone was injured, it was often the women who provided the care, using their knowledge of medicinal plants and basic first aid passed down through generations. They were the healers, the nurturers, and the providers, all wrapped into one. Their work wasn't a separate, secondary role. It was woven into the very fabric of daily existence. It was the predictable rhythm in a world of constant uncertainty. In a society without written laws or records, memory was everything. The collective memory of the group was its most valuable asset. Where did we find water during the last dry season? Which path did we take to avoid that dangerous cliff? Which berries made little Timmy sick last year? This vital information was often held and passed down by the women of the group. They were the living libraries of their communities. Through stories, songs, and direct teaching, they passed on generations of accumulated wisdom to their children. This oral tradition was the first form of education, ensuring that crucial survival skills were never lost. In T-Sensei, women were not just caregivers, they were the guardians of culture and knowledge. Their social role was equally significant. In a small, tightly knit group, social harmony was essential. Disputes and tensions could fracture a group and threaten its survival. Women often acted as social mediators, fostering connection and resolving conflicts. Their central role in family life gave them a unique position to maintain the bonds that held everyone together. They organized the camp, managed social interactions, and created a sense of home and stability, even in a life of constant movement. They weren't just creating order through routine. They were creating the very concept of community through care and connection. As societies began to slowly change, with the dawn of agriculture, the roles started to shift. But we must not forget this foundational period. The resilience, ingenuity, and collaborative spirit of these early women laid the groundwork for everything that came after. They were the innovators who figured out how to make a dangerous world livable. They were the leaders who guided their families through hardship with wisdom and strength. Their legacy is not written in stone monuments, but in the very fact of our existence. The skills they honed: collaboration, resource management, nurturing, and passing on knowledge are still the bedrock of any healthy society today. So, the next time you think about human history, don't just picture the great hunters or the male leaders. Picture the women. Their hands skillfully gathering food, their voices sharing ancient stories, their watchful eyes protecting the future of our species. They were the silent, steady force that ensured humanity's journey could continue. Their story is our story, and it's one of incredible strength and vital importance. The second topic is women and survival. Have you ever wondered what the secret to human survival was, long before supermarkets and smartphones? For a long time, we've been told stories centered on the great male hunter. But what if I told you there's a much deeper, more fundamental story that's been overlooked? A story about knowledge, resilience, and the quiet power that truly kept our ancestors alive. Today, we're going to uncover the forgotten role of women as the primary keepers of survival knowledge. Let's travel back in time. Imagine a small group of early humans navigating a wild, unpredictable landscape. Their lives are a constant dance with nature. The success of a hunt is never guaranteed. A sudden drought, a long winter, or a shift in animal migration could mean starvation. So, what was their safety net? It wasn't just sharper spears. It was a living encyclopedia of knowledge stored in the minds of the women. These women weren't just gatherers. That term is far too simple. They were ethnobotanists, ecologists, and astronomers, all rolled into one. They held a profound understanding of the natural world that was both vast and incredibly detailed. They knew which plants were edible and which were poisonous. They knew which leaves could soothe a fever, which roots could stop bleeding, and which barks could be woven into strong cordage. This wasn't random foraging, it was a science. Women could identify hundreds, if not thousands, of different plant species. They knew the precise time of year to harvest a specific berry for peak sweetness, or a particular root for maximum potency. They understood the subtle signs of the changing seasons, the way a flower bloomed, the direction of the wind, the phases of the moon. This knowledge of natural cycles was critical. It told the group when to move to a new area, when to hunker down for a coming storm, and where to find water in a dry season. Think about the sheer cognitive load this required. Memory was the ultimate survival tool. There were no written guides or apps. This entire library of life-saving information had to be memorized and passed down flawlessly from mother to daughter, from elder to niece, for countless generations. It was a quiet, intimate transfer of knowledge, shared through stories, songs, and hands-on teaching. A young girl would learn by watching her mother, tasting what she tasted, touching the leaves she touched, and listening to the ancient wisdom whispered around the fire. When the hunters returned empty-handed, which happened more often than we might think, it was this deep well of botanical knowledge that fed the group. The nuts, seeds, tubers, and greens gathered by the women provided the stable, reliable source of calories and nutrients that sustained everyone. It wasn't the backup plan, it was the foundation of their diet. The hunt was the high-risk, high-reward gamble. The gathering was the steady, dependable bedrock of their existence. This knowledge also shaped the very culture and movement of these groups. The decision of where to set up camp wasn't just about proximity to game animals. It was often dictated by the availability of key plant resources, fresh water, and safe shelter. All elements that the women were experts in identifying. Their understanding of the landscape guided the group's migration patterns, ensuring they were always in the right place at the right time to take advantage of nature's bounty. Furthermore, women were the first doctors and pharmacists. Their knowledge of medicinal plants was essential for treating injuries, illnesses, and the challenges of childbirth. They knew how to create poultices to draw out infection, teas to calm a cough, and remedies to ease pain. This ability to care for the health of the group was just as vital as providing food. A healthy group is a resilient group, better able to face the challenges of their environment. We can see echoes of this ancient wisdom even today in indigenous communities around the world, where women often remain the primary custodians of traditional ecological knowledge. They are the ones who know the secrets of the forest, the rhythms of the tides, and the language of the land. So why has this story been so often ignored? Perhaps because it's a quieter, less dramatic narrative than the thrilling chase of a mammoth. It's a story of patience, observation, and meticulous detail. It's a story of community, cooperation, and the enduring power of shared wisdom. It's not about a single heroic act, but about the consistent, daily efforts that ensure the survival of the human species. Recognizing the role of women as knowledge keepers doesn't diminish the role of men as hunters. Instead, it gives us a more complete, more accurate picture of our shared past. It shows us that survival was a partnership, a balance of different skills and different kinds of knowledge. The spear and the digging stick were two sides of the same coin. The legacy of these ancient women is all around us. It's in the herbal remedies we still use today, in our understanding of agriculture, and in our innate connection to the natural world. They were the original scientists, the keepers of the flame of knowledge that allowed humanity to not just survive, but to thrive and spread across the globe. The next time you walk through a park or a forest, take a moment to look closely at the plants around you. Remember that for our ancestors, each one held a story, a purpose, and a secret to survival. And it was the women who knew how to read that living library, ensuring the story of humanity could continue. The third topic is care as strength. Have you ever thought about what true strength really is? We often picture it as physical power, brute force, the ability to dominate. But what if I told you that one of the most powerful forces in human history is something we often overlooked, something we've mistakenly called weakness? I'm talking about care. Let's travel back in time, way back to the dawn of our species. Imagine the world of our earliest ancestors. It was a harsh and unforgiving place. Dangers lurked everywhere. Predators, starvation, injury, disease. In this war, survival wasn't just about the strongest hunter or the fiercest warrior. It was about the group. And what held that group together? It was care. 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 In these early societies, the act of caring was a revolutionary form of strength. It was the glue that bonded families and communities. Think about it. A child, vulnerable and dependent, needed constant attention to grow. An injured hunter, unable to provide for a time, needed to be tended to so they could recover and contribute again. The elderly, with their immense knowledge and experience, needed support to continue sharing their wisdom. Without this web of mutual support, the group would have fractured and perished. The individual might be strong for a day, but the caring community could endure for generations. This strength wasn't loud or flashy. It didn't come from a spear or a club. It was a quiet, persistent power. It was the patience to soothe a crying infant through the night. It was the responsibility to find medicinal herbs for the sick. It was the consistency of preparing food day after day, ensuring everyone was fed. These acts, traditionally and overwhelmingly performed by women, were the bedrock of human society. They were not secondary tasks. They were the primary engine of long-term survival. Women, through their tireless care, ensured the continuation of the human story. They kept the fire of community burning, not just literally, but metaphorically. So, why did we ever start thinking of care as a weakness? As societies grew more complex, hierarchies formed. The values of conquest, ownership, and dominance began to take center stage. The hard power of the warrior was celebrated in sagas and legends, while the soft power of the caregiver was relegated to the background, deemed domestic and less important. We started valuing the strength that takes life over the strength that nurtures it. This was a monumental shift in perspective, and one that I believe we are still grappling with today. We created a false dichotomy, separating strength from compassion, leadership from empathy, and power from care. But the truth is, these things are not opposites. They are two sides of the same coin. Real strength is holistic. A group that only valued brute force would have eventually torn itself apart from within. A group that protected its members, that healed its wounded, that nurtured its young, that respected its elders, that was a group built to last. It had resilience. It had a future. The act of caring created social capital, building trust and cooperation that made the entire group more effective, more adaptable, and ultimately, more powerful. The hunter who knew he'd be cared for if he was injured could take greater risks for the benefit of all. The community that ensured its children survived to adulthood was making the most critical investment possible. This reframing of care as a foundational strength isn't just an interesting historical footnote. It has profound implications for us right now, in the 21st century. We live in a world that often still glorifies a very narrow, aggressive definition of strength. We see it in business, in politics, in our daily interactions. We're encouraged to be tough, to be competitive, to never show vulnerability. But what if we started to recognize and celebrate the power of care in our modern lives? What if we saw the parents staying up with a sick child, not as just doing their duty, but as performing an act of profound, society-building strength? What if we viewed the teacher who patiently guides a struggling student as a true leader, or the friend who listens without judgment as a pillar of their community? What if we understood that the healthcare worker providing comfort to someone in pain is demonstrating a form of power more essential than any corporate takeover? When we start to see care through this lens, our whole perspective on value and contribution shifts. The work of caring for one another is not a distraction from the real work of the world. It is the real work of the world. It's what makes everything else possible. It's the infrastructure of our humanity. Think about the most successful teams you've been a part of, whether in sports, at work, or in a personal project. What made them great? Was it just individual talent? Or was it the way the members supported each other? The way they communicated, collaborated, and looked out for one another's well-being? That's the power of care in action. It transforms a collection of individuals into a cohesive, resilient, and high-performing unit. The strongest leaders are not those who rule by fear, but those who lead with empathy, who create environments of psychological safety where people feel valued and cared for. They understand that a team's well-being is directly linked to its success. This ancient wisdom, that care is strength, is something we desperately need to reclaim. We need to challenge the outdated notion that vulnerability is a liability. In reality, acknowledging our need for each other is the first step toward building genuine connection and collective power. The ability to give and receive care is not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of our shared humanity, and it's our greatest evolutionary advantage. It's what allowed a fragile, clever ape to not just survive, but to thrive and eventually populate the entire planet. So, let's start a new conversation about strength. Let's honor the quiet, consistent, and powerful work of caring that happens all around us, every single day. Let's recognize it in our families, in our workplaces, and in our communities. Let's teach our children that being strong isn't about never needing help, but about having the courage to give it and the grace to accept it. Because in the end, a society that doesn't care is a society that is truly weak, brittle, and destined to break. But a society built on a foundation of mutual care is resilient, adaptable, and endlessly strong. It's the kind of society our ancestors built, and it's the kind of society we have the power to create for our future. The fourth topic is from movement to stability. Have you ever wondered what it really took for our ancient ancestors to stop wandering and start building the first communities? We often picture the great mammoth hunt, the daring charge of brave men. But what if the real key to settling down to the very foundation of civilization was something quieter, more routine, something happening back at the camp? Today, we're going to explore a fascinating and often overlooked part of our human story, the pivotal role women played in the monumental shift from a nomadic existence to a settled life. It's a tale not of grand battles, but of daily persistence, innovation, and the quiet revolution that changed humanity forever. Let's rewind the clock, tens of thousands of years. Human life was a constant journey, a cycle of movement dictated by the seasons, the weather, and the migration of the animals we hunted. Survival was about being mobile, adaptable, and ready to pack up and leave at a moment's notice. In this world on the move, every member of the group had a role. But as groups started to linger longer in certain resource-rich areas, a subtle but powerful change began to take place. And at the heart of this change were the women. Think about the practicalities of a nomadic group. While men might have been focused on long-distance hunting trips, women were managing the core of the group's daily existence. This wasn't just passive work. It was a complex web of tasks that required incredible skill, knowledge, and foresight. One of the most fundamental aspects was childcare. Raising children in a constantly moving group is incredibly challenging. A newborn or a toddler can't keep up with the long trek. Women, as the primary caregivers, would have naturally advocated for periods of rest and stability. The need to care for the young, to provide a safe and stable environment for them to grow, was a powerful anchor, pulling the group towards staying in one place for longer. It wasn't about weakness. It was about investing in the future generation, the very survival of the tribe. Then there was the crucial matter of food. Hunting was a boom or bust activity. A successful hunt meant a feast. But what about the days or weeks between? This is where the gathering skills of women were indispensable. They weren't just picking berries. They were botanists, ecologists, and nutritionists all rolled into one. They knew which plants were edible, which were medicinal, and most importantly, when and where to find them. This deep knowledge of the local environment provided a steady, reliable food source that complemented the unpredictable returns from hunting. It was this gathered food, roots, nuts, seeds, greens that formed the backbone of the group's diet, providing the consistent calories needed to sustain everyone. But gathering food is only half the battle. What do you do with the surplus? You can't carry everything with you if you're always on the move. This is where another of women's innovations comes in. Food storage. The development of techniques to preserve and store food was a gift. Drying fruits, smoking meat, and storing nuts and grains in pits or rudimentary containers meant that the group was no longer living hand. It created a buffer, a safety net against lean times. This ability to store resources fundamentally altered the nomadic equation. Why move on if you have a well-stocked larder right here? The very act of creating a cache of food ties you to a place. It becomes a home base, a place worth returning to, a place worth defending. So you have childcare creating a need for stability, and you have reliable food gathering and storage making that stability possible. What ties it all together is routine. The daily rhythm of life at the camp, largely orchestrated by women, created a powerful sense of place. The tending of the fire, the preparation of food, the crafting of tools and clothing, the care of the young and the old all. These repetitive essential tasks wove a fabric of community. This daily repetition wasn't mundane, it was magical. It transformed a temporary campsite into something more. It created a home. The hearth, managed by women, became the symbolic and literal center of the group, a point of gravity around which social life revolved. Therefore, the decision-making process within these early groups would have been far more complex than we often imagine. It wasn't just the hunters deciding where to go next. The women, with their intimate knowledge of the local resources, the state of their food stores, and the needs of the children, would have had a powerful voice. Their influence would have been felt in every decision. When to post, how long to stay, which valleys were best for a seasonal camp, and eventually, which locations were suitable for a more permanent settlement. Their perspective, grounded in the logistics of daily survival and long-term sustainability, was essential. The when and where of movement were likely a negotiation, a balance between the pull of the hunt and the anchor of the home base. As these periods of staying put grew longer, from a few weeks to a few months, and then 2 seasons, something profound happened. The camp became a workshop for innovation. With more time in one place, people could experiment. Women likely drove many of these innovations. Think about the development of better containers, the refinement of grinding stones to process grains, the invention of weaving to create textiles, and the initial experiments with plant cultivation. When you know you're going to be in the same spot next season, you have a reason to plant a few seeds and see what happens. This is the very seed of agriculture, a revolution that would reshape the entire planet. And it likely began as small-scale gardening experiments managed by women near the camp. This growing stability didn't just change how people ate, it changed how they lived together. Staying in one place allowed for larger, more complex social groups. You could support more people, including the elderly, who became living libraries of knowledge, and the very young. Social bonds deepened. The shared work, the shared space, and the shared future forged a new kind of identity. The concept of community, as we know it, began to emerge from these increasingly permanent settlements. It was built on the foundation of routine, resource management, and social care domains largely pioneered and perfected by women. The 5th topic is the legacy of early women. Have you ever stopped to wonder how we got here? Not just you and me, but all of us, human civilization. We often hear stories of great kings, mighty warriors, and ingenious inventors, almost always men. Their statues fill our cities, and their names fill our history books. But what if I told you that's only half the story? What if the very foundation of everything we know, our communities, our cultures, our societies, was built by hands we rarely acknowledge? Today, we re-peeling back the layers of history to uncover the silent architects of our world, the women of our ancient past. This isn't just about adding women to history. It's about revealing that history is incomplete without them. Let's travel back in time, way back, to the dawn of humanity. In the vast, untamed landscapes of the Paleolithic era, survival was a daily struggle. The popular image is of the male hunter, the hero bringing home the mammoth. And yes, hunting was crucial, but while men were often away on long, dangerous hunts, who kept the home fires burning? Literally, it was the women. They were the anchors of their communities. Their knowledge of the land was encyclopedic. They knew which plants were edible, which were medicinal, and which were poisonous. This wasn't just simple gathering. It was botany, pharmacology, and nutrition, all rolled into one. They were the first doctors, the first chefs, the first scientists. They developed the tools for processing food, like grinding stones, which made nutrients more accessible and allowed their families to thrive. This consistent, reliable food source provided by women was the bedrock of daily life, ensuring the survival of their children and the stability of the group. Moreover, women were the original innovators in material culture. Think about it. Who would have needed containers to carry gathered food and water? Who would have needed ways to carry infants safely while working? Women. It's highly likely they were the inventors of the first slings, baskets, and nets. Using materials like reeds, vines, and animal hides, they wove the very fabric of early society. These weren't just simple crafts. They were revolutionary technologies. A woven basket dramatically increased the amount of food a person could gather and transport. A sling or baby carrier freed up a mother's hands, allowing her to contribute to the group's welfare while still caring for her child. These innovations were so fundamental, so integral to daily life, that they were probably taken for granted. And because they were often made from biodegradable materials, they've largely vanished from the archaeological record, leaving behind a biased picture dominated by stone tools and spear points. As we move from the Ice Age into the Neolithic Revolution, something incredible happens. Humans began to settle down, cultivate crops, and domesticate animals. This is often hailed as the dawn of civilization. And once again, women were at its very core. Who do you think first noticed that seeds dropped in a certain spot one season grew into plants the next? The primary gatherers, of course, women. Their deep, generational knowledge of plant life cycles made them the world's first farmers. They experimented with seeds, learned the rhythms of the seasons, and developed the techniques for cultivating staple crops like wheat, barley, and rice. This agricultural revolution, likely spearheaded by women, was the single most important event in human history. It led to food surpluses, which allowed for larger, permanent settlements. For the first time, humanity had a stable foundation upon which to build everything else. With the rise of these first villages and towns, women's roles became even more complex and vital. They were the keepers of the hearth, which was the social and economic center of every home. They managed the household's resources, oversaw food storage, and transformed raw agricultural products into sustenance. Think of the endless tasks: grinding grain for hours to make flour, preserving food for the winter, spinning wool into thread, and weaving that thread into cloth. These weren't menial chores, they were skilled industries. The production of textiles, for example, was a sophisticated and labor-intensive process, almost entirely in the hands of women. It provided clothing, blankets, and other essential goods, not just for their own families, but for trade with other communities. Women were, in effect, running the first local economies. And what about the structure of society itself? In many early cultures, lineage and inheritance were passed down through the mother's side. This is called a matrilineal system. Your identity, your clan, and your social standing were determined by who your mother was, not your father. This gave women considerable influence and status. As the bearers of the family line, they were respected and held a central place in the community's social fabric. They weren't just members of the clan. They were its very continuation. This system fostered strong bonds between mothers, daughters, and sisters, creating powerful female social networks that were essential for mutual support, childcare, and the transmission of knowledge. Beyond the physical and economic, women were the spiritual and cultural heart of their communities. They were the keepers of memory, the first storytellers. Before written language, history was oral. It was the mothers and grandmothers who passed down the myths, legends, and genealogies of their people to the next generation around the fire. They taught the children the social customs, the moral codes, and the beliefs that held their society together. This active transmission was the glue of culture. Without it, a community's identity would dissolve within a generation. In many societies, women also played key roles as priestesses and shaman, mediating between the physical and spiritual worlds. They oversaw rituals related to birth, death, and the fertility of the land, connecting their community to the sacred cycles of life. So why has this monumental contribution been so overlooked? As societies grew larger and more complex, power structures began to shift. The rise of organized warfare, private property, and centralized states often led to a concentration of power in the hands of men. History began to be written down by male scribes for male rulers, and it focused on the things they valued: wars, conquests, and political succession. The daily, foundational work of women, the very stuff that made society possible, was deemed domestic and therefore less important. It was so constant, so essential, that it became invisible, like the air we breathe. Archaeologists, for a long time, also had a bias. Archaeologists, who were mostly men, would find a skeleton buried with a spear and label it warrior. They'd find one buried with a needle and label it wife of warrior, rather than skilled artisan or textile producer. But today, we're rewriting that story. New archaeological techniques and a fresh perspective are allowing us to see the past more clearly. We're analyzing ancient DNA, studying wear patterns on tools, and re-examining old finds to uncover the hidden history of women. We are learning that civilization did not begin with power and conquest alone. It began with care, with knowledge, with collaboration, and with continuity. It began with the women who gathered the first seeds, wove the first baskets, raised the first families, and told the first stories. Their legacy isn't written in stone monuments, but in the very DNA of human society. It's in the food we eat, the clothes we wear, and the communities we live in. Their impact didn't fade, it multiplied, echoing through millennia to shape the world we inhabit today. By remembering them, we don't just honor the past, we gain a deeper, more complete understanding of who we are and how we all got here. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey back in time. If you found this perspective on history as fascinating as I do, please hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into our shared human story. Let me know in the comments, what part of this hidden history surprised you the most? Until next time, stay curious.